A severed head on a pike seemed such a grisly trophy to be displayed in the chapel at Chalon. And yet it took me weeks before I got up the nerve to ask Father Armand why he kept it. The ancient priest stared out the window for a long time, recalling days gone by. "I was there," he said finally, "at the Battle of the Catalonian Fields, fighting alongside Aetius and Theodoric the Goth. I knew there had been a battle here, decades ago. Peasants still overturned skeletons and broken shields with their plows from time to time. Who was it, Father? I asked him. Who were you fighting? He turned back to regard me, paralyzing me in his old man's stare. Attila the Hun, he said, and then he told me the story. The Huns rode out from the wilderness sometime in the 400s, eager to feast on a Roman Empire weak from internal corruption and the expansion of other barbarian tribes. It was the Huns who drove many of these other barbarians before them. They were terrifying warriors from the steppes of Asia, their bodies disfigured from ritual scarring, their legs deformed from a near lifetime in the saddle. Despite their fearsome aspect, the Huns might have been little more than raiders, had it not been for the leadership of Attila. He called himself the Scourge of God. Attila and his brother Bleda led the Huns not just to raid, but to devastate Scythia and Persia.
You challenge my every decision. It is as if you seek to lead the Huns yourself. Very well. The iron boar lairs near here. Let the one who kills this mighty beast lead our people. This way, Attila. Follow.
Bleda will lead us to ruin. Perhaps he should not return from his boar hunt. Accidents can happen.
Tracks, brother. Ride ahead and see if you can flush the boar out.
Team.
Attila, that boar would have killed me had you not intervened. Pity that none will ever learn of your loyalty. Archers, attack!
Team.
Attila, coward, fight and earn your right to rule.
Team.
It was an ambush. Bleda tried to kill Attila. Bleda is not fit to rule. Let us slay the rest of the traitors.
Attila murdered Bleda. We were too late to stop the bloodshed. We are left with an honorless cur for a leader.
And what were you doing in the forest, noble archer, if not waiting to ambush Attila at Bleda's command? We are best rid of Bleda. Hail Attila! Bleda is no more. When Attila returns to camp, he alone will rule the Huns. Attila is king of the Huns. He will lead us to victory against our blood enemies.
Team.
Some time ago, the Romans captured a number of Hun villagers. Bleda arranged for their return, but I did not trust Bleda, and I do not trust the Romans. We should free them. No bargaining. We raze this Roman camp to the ground.
You would be wise to withdraw from our domain and pursue your petty conquests elsewhere, Hans.
Team.
You have foolishly tempted our wrath.
Our arrangement was with Bleda. I will not turn the captives over to Attila. You must take them by force.
We are saved.
Wait! I am the son of Lypaxis, a leader amongst my people. If you will free me, you will be rewarded. My thanks for rescuing me. We nomads should work together. Perhaps if your leader Attila will visit our village in the west, our people can make an alliance. For now, a truce?
We owe the Huns more than our gratitude, but we desperately need horses. If you could supply us with 10 horses, we will repay our debt of honor. The Huns have killed my son. We will spit on Attila's grave. Attila's honor is meaningless. We will bring death to the treacherous Huns.
I asked Father Armand more about this legendary Attila the Hun, whom the stories always treat as more of a monster than a man. He was a man, the priest said, but he did not look like the Romans, nor did he worship the Roman god. That was the cause of all that was to follow. Father Armand shivered, as if from the cold breeze that blew in from the chapel's open windows. Kingship among the barbarians was not by divine right or lineage, but by who had the strongest will. Attila was the strongest of the Huns, and he reinforced his position by brandishing a rusty old blade and proclaiming it to be the sword of Mars, the old Roman god of war. Attila had a custom of fiercely rolling his eyes, as if he wished to enjoy the terror which he inspired. He had a power over other men, so that many chose to join him. Many foreigners joined his council, Scythians and Burgundians and Goths. Most notable among these was the son of a prominent Roman family, sent as a hostage to ensure peace between Romans and Huns. The name of this boy was Flavius Aetius, a name not soon to be forgotten. Now that the memories had stirred, Father Armand seemed eager to tell his tale. He explained how the Huns, like the other barbarians, had a style of warfare dramatically different from the ancient Romans or my own Franks. The Huns would charge as one group, often firing arrows as they came, and then suddenly retreat again. For the nations of Europe, who were used to forming up lines and columns and even issuing challenges for personal combat, this was an aberration. They were unable to comprehend warfare in this manner. Barbarians did not conquer lands. They did not try and hold and colonize the cities they attacked. Instead, they ravaged and pillaged and took their loot back to their camps. By that time, there were two Roman empires, the government having decided that the Roman lands were simply too vast for one city to manage effectively. Attila and the Huns began a series of raids into the Eastern Empire.
The Eastern Roman Empire is fielding their army. We must hasten with our raid so that we have enough resources to train our own army. Let us raise the Sofia town center with our Tarkans and see what loot we may find. The Sophians had much food stockpiled in their town center. The town of Nisus produces the best lumber in the region. Let us take all we can by destroying these lumber camps. The locals speak of wild Scythian that dwell somewhere nearby. We should be cautious. We have captured all of Nisus's lumber. Beyond this moat is the Roman fort. We should avoid it until we are ready. I do not like the looks of this.
You are most foolish to trespass here. If you bring us 6 of your villagers, we will make it worth your while.
The gold mines of Adrianople deserve to be plundered. Let's destroy all of their mining camps. Roman gold. There is no other metal that shines as sweetly. Huns do not need houses. Let us burn these to the ground, and then take these villagers with us. Now these peasants will do our bidding. Let us find a suitable location to establish our camp. I remember this place. They took several of our raiders prisoner before. We must rescue our Hun brothers held at the castle before they are executed. Now that we have a base, we must train many riders to withstand the Roman attack and then go on the offensive.
We thank you for this gift. Your reward waits in the clearing to the north.
대령.
If we attack the Roman fort with too few soldiers, we will surely die.
Huns have ransacked our fort. I fear for the future of the Empire.
The Roman city of Nisus was erased from the earth. The Huns so devastated the place that when the Roman ambassadors passed through to meet with Attila, they had to camp outside the city on the river. The riverbanks were covered with human bones, and the stench of death was so great that no one could enter the city. Many cities of Europe would soon suffer the same fate. The ambassadors that the Romans sent to Attila concealed an assassination attempt. Somehow, Attila knew of the attempt on his life and sent the terrified assassin back to his emperor with the gold he had been paid to do the deed in a sack tied to his neck. Following such a demonstration, the Huns had no difficulty convincing the Eastern Roman Empire to start paying them a tribute, protection money, to stave off the inevitable Hun invasion. By this time, the Romans had considerable experience dealing with barbarians. They could civilize the raiders to some extent by offering them otherwise useless land on the Roman borders as a token tribute. Before Attila, this tactic seemed to be working on the Huns, who settled on the Danube River Valley. All that changed when Attila seized command. He was much more aggressive and unpredictable than the previous Hunnic kings. He demanded that the tributes from Rome be increased, and when the Romans refused, Attila marched on the Eastern Roman Empire. He marched on the great city of Constantinople, whose double walls had never fallen. Attila was done with raiding. Now the Huns advanced slowly, eradicating everything in their path. The Romans would reinstate the tribute, or they would be destroyed.
Perhaps we underestimated the defenses of Constantinople. We are not equipped for a direct siege, though perhaps we can destroy their docks.
Philippopolis has lost its town center. Why won't these Huns just leave? Attila, king of the Huns, if we give you 500 more gold, will you cease these raids? The Huns have built a castle on Roman land. Let us send them 500 gold as a sign of goodwill. Now the Huns are attacking the docks at Philippopolis. Can nothing be done about them? The Huns have torched Marcianopolis. Please, take this 3,000 gold and just go away. You have destroyed our shipyards. We will pay you 500 gold to cease these attacks. Curse you, Huns! Will 500 more gold stay your hand? You Huns have sunk our merchant fleet. Just take this 500 gold and leave our seas. The Huns have claimed 2 more docks in the chateau of our castle, no less. Perhaps we should buy them off. No! You must not destroy our wonder, the cornerstone of our city. Take this, please, and leave.
The Romans have given us the gold we need. Now we can truly establish a Hunnic empire.
Who was this man, I asked, to threaten the Roman emperor? Titles such as emperor meant nothing to Huns. Attila was not an appointed ruler, only the strongest among the Huns. The amenities of his office meant nothing to him. While his chieftains and council ate off of silver plates, Attila's own plate and goblet were hewn from simple wood. His Scythian guards had jewels on their sword hilts, and their cloaks were clasped with gold. But Attila showed no such affectations. He was interested only in conquest. Some said that he was trying to build a legacy to rival that of Alexander the Great. All of the barbarians wanted to possess Rome, as if it would buy them instant legitimacy as a world-spanning empire. Unlike most of the other barbarians, however, Attila was actually going to get his chance. The Western Roman Emperor had a sister named Honoria. who, after weary years of confinement to her parlor, made the preposterous decision to send a letter to Attila the Hun. She asked him to marry her. One suspects Honoria did not know what she was getting into. Attila was plentifully supplied with wives, but he immediately saw the advantage that such a union could put him in. Suddenly, his plans changed. He would not invade the Eastern Roman Empire at Constantinople, but the Western Empire at Rome. Indeed, he claimed half of the Western Empire as his dowry. Attila sent the Huns to march across the Rhine River and made alliances with the other barbarian chieftains. Some, namely the Burgundians and Ostrogoths, joined the Hun Confederation, while others, such as the Visigoths, sought to seek Roman favor by opposing the Huns. When Attila entered Gaul, what we now call France, he could claim that he merely sought by force what was his by right of betrothal to Honoria.
Our forces are weak and scattered from recent attacks. We must regroup before we ravage the Frankish countryside.
Please spare us, O great Huns. We would join you if you could only tribute to us 500 gold and then build a castle in our town to help defend us.
You have burned your last town.
The old priest hung his head as he related what happened next, and I could tell the weight of the memories caused him great sorrow. Attila would stop at nothing until he reached his fiancée Honoria and his goal of ruling the Roman Empire. The ravaging of Gaul was unprecedented. People were tortured, their bodies torn asunder by wild horses, or their bones crushed under the weight of rolling wagons. Their unburied limbs were abandoned on the public roads as prey to dogs. Heads on stakes stretched from Gaul clear back to the Danube River, from whence the Huns had come. They lay siege to Orleans, for Attila had learned much of siegecraft since he had faced the walls of Constantinople. But as the Huns set to their fell task, a great cloud of dust appeared on the horizon. Aetius and the Roman army had come. And now, said Father Ramond, is where I entered the story. The battle between Hun and Roman was fought at the end of June 451. The Romans were commanded by Aetius, a brilliant and celebrated general who had been held hostage by Attila when he was a boy. Aetius knew Attila and knew the Hunnic ways. Since he had returned to the Western Empire, Aetius had done more than any man to keep Rome alive throughout the period of barbarian invasions. His army was not large enough to face Attila alone, so Aetius convinced tribes of the Alans and Visigoths to ally with him. Even though these dubious allies had a common hatred of the Huns, it was still a remarkable achievement on Aetius' part to have drawn them into an effective military relationship. The Huns were eager for battle. Attila's shamans looked at the entrails of cattle and the color of sheep bones and prophesied that the Huns would meet defeat on the Catalonian fields. However, they also foresaw that the commander of the opposing force would be killed. Attila must have thought this a fair trade, because he brought battle to Aetius and the Goths. Before blood was drawn, Attila stood before his assembled troops, clutching the sword of Mars in his fist. He told them, "It is a right of nature to glut the soul with vengeance. I shall hurl the first spear at the foe. If any man can stand at rest while Attila fights, he is a dead man."
Attila, you brought us to this accursed battlefield. Now you must keep the Romans from killing us all.
This river will run red with the blood of Goths and Romans.
The Romans have lost. Now there is nothing to stop our invasion of Italy.
It was a catastrophic battle. One of the largest and greatest the world has ever seen. The stream was turned to a torrent by the rushing of blood. I pity those that were forced to slake their thirst from it. Cadavera vero innumera, the Romans said afterwards. Truly countless bodies. Perhaps 300,000 men were left dead on the Catalonian fields. It is said the ghosts of those killed continued to fight for several days. I passed within inches of the fell Hun king as he stalked the battlefield, trying to determine which of his chieftains and allies yet lived, when he found me huddled beneath my shield. I made my peace with God, but Attila did not seek my decapitation. He saw that I was a holy man and ordered me to join his retinue of foreign advisors. That is how you know so much of the Huns, I offered. The priest nodded. Despite the carnage, the outcome of the legendary battle was unclear. Attila had lost much of his cavalry, but the Romans' entire army was destroyed. For a time, no one knew if the Hun king would continue to pursue the hand of Honoria. But what of the prophecy? I asked. Did Aetius die on the battlefield? Nay, it was Theodoric the Goth, not Aetius, who died and fulfilled the prophecy. Aetius knew that if he utterly destroyed the Huns, then the Visigoths would have no need for a Roman alliance, and Rome would face yet another barbarian threat. And so, Aetius retired from military life, hoping that the outcome of the Catalonian fields would leave the Huns and Goths in a stalemate, hoping that he had done enough to save his empire. He had not. As far as Attila was concerned, Honoria was waiting with open arms in Rome. The very next year, partially recovered from his losses, Attila turned his attention to Italy. The Huns crossed over the Alps and moved down the Italian peninsula, launching another great invasion that terrorized the inhabitants of the Western Roman Empire. He meant to take Rome and crown himself emperor. This was not the Rome of Caesar, mind you, but a withering Rome, beaten from earthquakes and barbarian wars. And this time, there was no General Aetius to hold off the Hun savagery.
Timo.
King Attila, before we pursue this wanton bloodshed any further, we request that you come personally to a meeting with Pope Leo I in Rome.
Team. Mittle Rus 3.
Attila, might I have a word with you in private, please?
The city of Aquileia, at the tip of the Adriatic, was wiped off the face of the earth. The fugitives from that pitiful city took refuge among the islands, marshes, and lagoons at the head of the Adriatic Sea, and there founded a state that afterward grew into the Republic of Venice. But what of the Pope? I asked. No one knows what Saint Leo said to the Hunnic king, but that very day Attila turned his army around and started back for the Hun lands on the Danube. Attila the Hun died shortly thereafter. Since he had failed to claim Rome, he could not have Honoria, and instead brought another wife into his harem. On his wedding night, Attila suffered a nosebleed and choked to death. For a man who had boasted that where my horse has trodden, no grass grows, it was a curiously anticlimactic death. The Hunnic warriors cut their hair and gashed their faces so that the king should be lamented, not by tears of maidens, but by the blood of warriors. Attila's bloody reign of conquest lasted only 8 long years. Father Armand was silent for a long time. He glanced over at the head on a stake. A Hunnic trophy, he said. I think the man was a Visigoth. He died at the Battle of the Catalonian Fields. I keep it here, so that I may see it every day and remember. Remember what, Father? I asked him. The scent of a burning village. The sound of butchery. The way peasants would flee before the Hun riders. The way we would ride them down. The way it felt to conquer alongside Attila and the Huns. He leaned so close, I could feel his breath. Sometimes, I miss it.
Enough! You have troubled me for 3 blocks now, stranger. If you agree to cease this dogged pursuit and leave me to my lamentations, then I will answer your relentless questions. I will tell you why a dead man rides through the streets of Valencia. You see that castle on the hill? That is the home of Rodrigo Diaz, whom Moor and Christian alike call El Cid. It is from the Arabic Sayyid, which means Lord. He is the greatest man who ever lived. The Cid was a knight and loyal vassal of one of the old kings of Spain. When the old king died, his kingdom was partitioned between his surviving sons, Sancho and Alfonso. King Sancho ruled Castile, a windswept barren land named for its many border castles. The Cid continued to serve Castile and its new king, as was his duty. The sly King Alfonso ruled Leon, but openly plotted to become king of all of Christian Spain. There was soon open warfare between Castile and Leon. The struggle climaxed at the Battle of Golpejera, where the Cid attempted to capture the wicked Alfonso.
Welcome, Rodrigo. The tournament awaits only your arrival to begin.
Sí, agora.
Defeat my champion in combat, Rodrigo Diaz de Vivar, and I will give you command of my army. Let the tournament begin!
El Cid will fall to my blades. I would face the Cid, my king, with your permission.
You would face him from horseback, hmm? He, afoot? I will not allow that. However, if he wishes, I have a horse for Rodrigo in my stable. Rodrigo?
Presto. De grado.
The horse, Babieca, comes from the renowned royal stables of Seville. Very well, brave Rodrigo. Face the knight afoot. El Cid, so great a champion as yourself must have a charger to carry him into battle. Go to my stable and retrieve the steed that is now yours. A splendid sight! Now go back to the task at hand. Rodrigo Diaz de Vivar, the Cid. You will lead the armies of Castile. I am glad that you have won. You are the only man I would trust with a very important duty. Rodrigo, you know of my brother Alfonso. You also know of his ambition to rule all of Spain. I need you to travel to his castle at Golpejera, capture Alfonso, and bring him to me so that I may persuade him that ruling Leon... Your army has assembled. Look.
Clumsy soldiers. Not 2 weeks ago, another army traipsed through our fields and destroyed half of our harvest. Mind your lumbering feet! I am not jesting, soldier. Get out of these fields. El Cid! My lord, you lead the rabble? The soldiers we have seen around here? Forgive our harsh words. We are at your service.
We have heard of the Cid's piety and would humbly join his service.
Wonderful. With this building, you have begun your quest in earnest. I send my thanks and the thanks of Castile.
So, my brother would have words with me? Since you leave me no choice, I will ride back with you to see him.
Sí. Mande. Plazme. Sí. Plazme.
Although the Cid defeated Alfonso's army in combat, the sly king knew there were more devious ways to win a war. Alfonso lured his brother King Sancho to a secret conference below the city walls of Zamora and had him assassinated in the night. With the death of his brother, Alfonso became king of both León and Castile, the most powerful king in Christian Spain. The Cid could not trust King Alfonso, yet he was sworn to serve his king, and that man was now Alfonso. The Cid forced King Alfonso to swear an oath upon sacred relics that he had nothing to do with Sancho's death. Before his army and his court, a nervous Alfonso did make his declaration. In so doing, the Cid helped to cement Alfonso's claim as king in the hearts of the people, for they so trusted the Cid. King Alfonso did not recognize that the Cid had done him a service. Instead, Alfonso held a grudge against the man who was the greatest of his knights for ever doubting him. Alfonso also was jealous and suspicious of the Cid's popularity with the soldiers and the common man. He sent the Cid into dangerous battle again and again, but always the Cid emerged victorious. How do I know so much of my Cid, Rodrigo Diaz? I am Jimena of Asturias, and I am the dona of this castle. Rodrigo and I were married in Castile in 1075. Those were among the happiest days of my life, at least when my husband was not being sent to do battle against the Moors. Far to the east in the Holy Land, they speak of only one Muslim expansion, that of the Seljuk Turks. But here in Spain we speak of another, the Moors. The Moors ruled southern Spain for so long that Christian and Muslim often lived side by side with little animosity. Such was the case in the city of Toledo, which was in Moorish lands but inhabited by Christians as well. A political assassination had plunged the city of Toledo into a civil war. Seeing a chance to expand his empire, King Alfonso struck at Toledo under the pretense of restoring order. He ordered the Cid to command the army, though one must wonder if once again he was intentionally putting the Cid in harm's way.
My Cid, you must help us. Rebels are tearing our city apart. Search for the Imam. He will know what to do. He fled to the lake to the east.
This is our well, my Cid, though you may drink of it if you wish. I am Motamid of the Moors. If it is true that you have come to restore order to Toledo, then you have my gratitude. My Cid, if you're in need of food, might I suggest fishing from the lake?
Welcome, my Cid. I was forced to flee Toledo due to the open rebellion in the streets. I tried to calm the Spaniards and Moors, but they would not listen. The rebel leaders have power because of the relics that they have stolen from churches and mosques. If you could recover all 4 of the relics and bring them to me, I believe I could quell the rebellion.
My Cid, if you wish to build castles, you will need plenty of stone. My scouts have located a large quarry to the southeast that may be of interest to you. They are taking the relics to that mosque on the island. Attack them!
Now that you have brought me these relics, the people of Toledo will listen to me, and I should be able to end the rebellion. Thank you for this noble act, my Cid.
Once again, the Cid emerged victorious and delivered the city to King Alfonso. Moor and Christian alike shouted his name from the city walls and named him El Cid Campeador, my lord, the conqueror. After nearly 400 years of Moorish rule, the city of Toledo was ruled by a Christian king. But still, Alfonso was not satisfied. He accused the Cid of seeking personal glory at the expense of the crown. When he heard the peasants shouting the name of the Cid instead of Alfonso's own name, he became even more angered. I knew then that our contented lives in Castile were about to end. King Alfonso sent his most loyal and able servant Rodrigo Diaz the Cid into exile with only his horse Bavieca. Myself and our 2 daughters were left at the monastery in Castile. When Rodrigo and I parted, it felt like a nail being torn from its finger. Rodrigo rode alone into the Castilian winter. He was not alone for long. Everywhere the Cid went, mercenaries and soldiers were eager to follow. Soon he had a small army of his own. But the Cid was not content to wander the wilds of Castile forever. He needed a castle and a lord to serve. This too he found in the most unlikely of places.
I cannot stand this sight of you, El Cid. I command that you leave my kingdom at once.
Mustad.
My Cid, I know that the king is irate, but I am certain you do not mean to leave without your trusty Bavieca. She waits for you in the stable to the northwest.
My Cid, here is your horse. Do not judge King Alfonso too harshly. We will open the gates for you now. Godspeed.
That's enough of a head start. If the Cid shows his face near our city again, you may open fire.
King Alfonso is a fool to send you into exile. We will follow where you lead, my Cid.
Greetings, my Cid. My Lord Motamid has heard of your situation and welcomes you to join him at his city of Zaragoza. It is just a short ride to the southeast of here. My Cid, King Alfonso has blockaded the gap leading to Zaragoza. If we are to get through, we must siege his castle. Perhaps we can find the troops we need to the south.
My Cid, what little we have is yours, if you can just destroy Alfonso's castle to the north.
El Cid, we stand nothing to gain by fighting against each other. Let us call a truce, and each just go our separate ways.
We meet again, El Cid. You could not have arrived at a better time. The army of Count Berengar is approaching our gates. Defeat him, and you may have the land outside my city gates as your own. Thank you for saving my city. Here is a small reward for your trouble. Now you may use these villages to build your own encampment. But be vigilant. Berengar may come again.
Motamid, Lord of Zaragoza, was a gifted leader of men, but like many of the Moors, he was also a poet and artist. The cultural achievements of the Moors made the rest of Europe seem barbaric by comparison. As the Cid parleyed with Lord Motamid in his sumptuous palace, he feasted on meals that came floating down an indoor stream. Motamid bestowed rich gifts on the Cid and made him a wealthy man. But the Cid, ever the loyal servant of Castile, convinced Motamid to ratify a treaty making Zaragoza part of Castile. The Cid never fought openly against King Alfonso, though he did make enemies with Count Berengar and other Spanish lords who wanted only tributes of gold from the Moors and were not interested in making alliances with them. Count Berengar would remain the Cid's enemy for many years. King Alfonso watched with alarm as the combined Christian-Moorish forces of the Cid gained power and prestige. Finally, he could stand it no longer and sent his own army against Motamid's Moors at Zaragoza. As much as he would have liked to come to the assistance of his friend Motamid, the Cid could not draw steel against King Alfonso, as he was still the Cid's rightful lord. Since the Cid could not assist him, Motamid was forced to seek help elsewhere. When he contacted the Berbers who lived beyond the sea in Gibraltar, however, he received more than he bargained for. These veiled religious zealots waged a continuous jihad across the barren dunes of the Sahara. Their leader, the fanatical Yusuf, who never showed his face, immediately prepared to cross the ocean into Spain with thousands of men and camels. King Alfonso's army was certain to crumble beneath this new wave of invaders.
Hurry, my Cid. King Alfonso's forces are deep in Moorish territory and are horribly outnumbered. This way! Hurry!
Rodrigo, if you have any loyalty left, you will save me from the Moors. Please, cover my retreat to my camp to the west. Thank you, Rodrigo. Now you must lead my army against Yusuf and his blackguards. If you can destroy all of their docks, they will be unable to transport soldiers across the Strait of Gibraltar and must postpone their invasion of Spain.
El Cid's soldiers, please do not destroy our place of worship. Instead, summon the Cid to us that we may speak with him. You are most tolerant, my Cid. Take our mosque under your protection by sending a holy man to convert it, and though I should not, I will help you to defeat Yusuf and his blackguard. Our thanks, my Cid. I feel free to help you because I have foreseen your victory. I seek only to bring the bloodshed to a swift close. The transports are the key. Destroy the Blackguard Navy's transports, and you will effectively cripple the arrival of reinforcements. Also, El Cid, if you should wish to leave a holy man here at the mosque, we will teach him all that we know.
I have learned of sanctity. Now I shall learn of fervor. I have learned the ways of fervor, and now they teach me of herbal medicines. I have mastered the poultices and remedies of herbal medicine, and now I'm studying the ways of atonement. The ways of atonement are now ours. The monks now teach me of heresy. I have learned the intricacies of heretics and heresy, and now learn the art of illumination. We now know of illumination. The monks will soon teach me their block printing. The technique of block printing is ours. Now I will learn the might of theocracy. We have discussed, debated, and learned of theocracy. Now I will delve into the mysteries of faith. The wonderment of faith is with us, my Cid. The Blackguard monks thank you and have taught me all they know.
We are halfway through the Blackguard Navy's docks and halfway to stopping the advance of Yusuf's invasion.
You have done it, my Cid. Without their transports, Yusuf will have to call off his invasion.
Alfonso needed only have mentioned that Spain was in jeopardy, and the Cid would have come. And when the Cid did finally come to his king's aid, the Berbers were crushed, and their leader Yusuf was forced to flee back to Africa. The Cid bowed to Alfonso, ready to return to his rightful place as the king's champion. But King Alfonso was angered that the Cid had not arrived sooner, and ordered him to return to his exile. This time, he seized the Cid's wife and children. Many long years did I rot in the dungeons of Castile. The Cid was in exile again, and this time there were no Moors to welcome him in. He wandered the bleak rocks of Castile and wondered if his tale was finally at an end. And yet, a remarkable thing happened. Many mercenaries and knights knew of the tales of the Cid and were eager to follow him, even without a castle. As the Cid wandered further south, more men, Christian and Muslim, joined his army. Eventually, the Cid had a large enough force to carve out a fiefdom of his own. King Alfonso had set his sights on beautiful Valencia, the jewel of the Moorish coast, but the Cid was closer and could get there sooner. If he conquered Valencia, the Cid would have protection not only from the machinations of Alfonso, but also a bulwark against the inevitable second invasion of Yusuf and the Berbers. Events would have unfolded simply then, had not our old enemy, Count Berengar of Barcelona, picked that moment to strike back at the Cid.
It is the one they call the Cid. If we bring his head, Count Berengar will be most pleased.
You are welcome here, my Cid. We will follow your commands if you can help defend us from Count Berengar. Berengar is attacking! Ours is but a peaceful village. We cannot defend ourselves. We should flee south across the rift.
It is the Cid! Finally, we have found a lord worthy of our service.
We have heard of the Cid's piety and would humbly join his service.
It is El Cid, Campeador. We will throw down our nets and follow him to Valencia.
Voy. De grado.
Welcome, El Cid, to Valencia! We have suffered much in this war, but those days are past. We know that you will restore the city to its former glory. El Cid, Campeador!
We claim Valencia in the name of King Alfonso. Turn back at once.
Lumber is hard to come by in these parts. We will try to give you what we can.
Presto.
By defending our wonder, the Cid has helped to put Valencia on the map. Viva El Cid!
How abundant the orange groves and olive trees seemed to the conquerors who had come from bleak Castile. Valencia was a tropical paradise, complete with palm trees, silk market, and abundant fish and waterfowl. After the Cid had secured the castle and saw to the defenses of the city, he sent for me and the children. Our reunion took place on the highest tower of the castle, before a sea that consumed the entire horizon. We turned Valencia into our own kingdom, uniting 8,000 Christian and 20,000 Moorish soldiers. It was the greatest of the Cid's accomplishments to date. We were far away from the reach of King Alfonso, and Count Berengar himself was safely locked in Valencia's dungeons. In time he would be ransomed, and one of our daughters married to his nephew and heir to ward against future conflicts. If only the tale of the Cid had ended there beneath the Valencian sunsets, but it was not to be. Valencia lay right in the path of the advancing horde of frenzied Yusuf and his Berber hordes. We were trapped and alone in our kingdom of Valencia. The Cid immediately sent out messages for potential allies, but there were few to be found. The Christian kingdom of Aragon was too far away, and King Alfonso of Castile seemed in no hurry to come to the Cid's defense. Even the Cid's old ally, Motamed the Moor, was of no avail. Yusuf had sent him into exile in the Sahara Desert, where he spent the rest of his sad days composing poetry. The Berbers rode around the city for 10 days and nights, shrieking and banging their weapons on shields made of hippopotamus hide. But the Cid comforted his troops, prayed and planned a counterattack. And then the unthinkable happened. During a brilliant surprise attack to capture gold and horses from the Berbers, Rodrigo Diaz, my Cid, was shot by a stray arrow. The surprise attack became a rout, and the Cid's men barely made it back to the castle with his broken body. Rodrigo and I knew he would not last the night, but we also knew that without their Cid to lead them, the soldiers of Valencia would never have the strength to stand against the Berbers. So it was that even as he breathed his last breath, I strapped my husband onto his horse Bavieca and placed his sword Tizon in his hand. Bavieca stood out above the city of Valencia. My one hope was that the men would not realize the charade, realize that their Cid was already dead. My poor Rodrigo! 'Tis only his horse who lives. But the men must not find out, or they will never have the courage to face Yusuf.
Sí.
Presto, de grado. Presto, de grado.
Mande.
was the twilight of Moorish Spain. The Berber army had been broken, and Valencia withstood the siege. King Alfonso would not allow us to bury the Cid until he could personally attend the funeral. When he arrived, he dispelled all thoughts of interring the Cid into the earth. Instead, the Cid's body was preserved and placed near the altar of the church, seated on an ivory stool that he had captured from the Moors, clothed in precious silk and holding his sword Tizon in his left hand. And who was left to rule in Valencia? King Alfonso of Castile? Or Count Berenguer of Barcelona? No. Valencia is mine. It is I, Jimena Diaz, who claims rulership of my dead husband's kingdom. And if the Berbers return to Valencia, it is I whom they shall find commanding the soldiers of Rodrigo Diaz, el Cid Campeador.
Passed down to you by Cuauhtémoc, eagle warrior of Tenochtitlan. An omen appeared above the forest, the shape of an ear of corn, but blazing like daybreak. It seemed to bleed fire, drop by drop, like a wound in the sky. I am a warrior, not a priest, and knew not what to make of such a sign. I consulted with the seers and magicians to see if another great war was coming, but they answered only in riddles. The gods want more sacrifice, was their answer. That was always their answer. Much of our empire of rainforests and volcanoes has been conquered in the name of sacrifice. The magicians tell us that we must make a sacrifice every single day for the sun to continue to rise. It took the relay teams 2 full days to carry my message the 200 miles to our city of Tenochtitlan. After 2 more days, my uncle, Montezuma, Emperor of the Aztecs, sent his reply. Montezuma's priests foretold that the god Quetzalcoatl might soon return from his long exile. How else to explain the omen? Montezuma ordered my warriors to increase their efforts to consolidate the rainforest between our lands and those of our enemies. We must establish control over 4 shrines that are sacred to Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent. Because the Aztec Empire is mighty and constantly expands, we have made many enemies. We must defend these shrines from our enemies in order to prepare for Quetzalcoatl's eventual return.
I hear the growl of the jaguar. Is this a bad omen?
You defile our sacred temple, Aztecs. The gods demand a sacrifice.
When my warriors had captured the shrines and defeated the Xochomilco and Tlatiluco, we made the long journey back to Tenochtitlan, laden with gifts for Emperor Montezuma, jade, feathers, and of course, prisoners. The sheer vastness of our city on the lake seemed staggering after having been in the rainforest for so many days. Emperor Montezuma lives in the most sumptuous rooms of the palace with his wives and concubines. While we spoke, he drank frothing chocolate from a golden cup. Musicians played their drums and flutes, and masked women danced. When my uncle, Montezuma, first ascended the Great Pyramid many years ago to become emperor, there was a great celebration. Yet now, some question his leadership. He sometimes makes decisions slowly, and rarely does he lead the warriors into combat. Montezuma's priests informed us that Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, would soon return to Tenochtitlan to reclaim his kingdom. Since I helped prepare for his coming, I was given a new obsidian macana and promoted to the rank of Jaguar warrior. There was more feasting and dancing that night. The air was heavy with perfume. But I noticed as I walked down the steps of the Emperor's palace that the omen still hung heavily over the lake, spraying sparks over the midnight sky. So says Cuauhtémoc. Jaguar warrior of Tenochtitlan. Passed down to you by Cuauhtémoc, Jaguar warrior of Tenochtitlan. The gods were still uneasy, for that same year, another omen appeared. The temple of the demon Huitzilopochtli burst suddenly into flame, although it was made of stone. When the people hurried to pour water on the fire, it burned with even greater violence. I asked our emperor, Montezuma, what we needed to do to appease the gods. His haughty priests made the predictable reply. The Aztec Empire needed more prisoners. The sun god and the rain god and even the feathered serpent, Quetzalcoatl, were angry deities that required sacrifice. Our city-state of Tenochtitlan is allied with two others, together composing the Triple Alliance. Montezuma intended for the Triple Alliance to attack our longtime enemies, the Tlaxcala. I sent the traditional shield, arrows, and cloaks to the Tlaxcala, declaring to them that they would soon be attacked. Then we marched out into the forests, our jaguar and eagle banners ready to clash with the heron banners of the Tlaxcala. Birds in the rainforest canopy took to the sky, eager to be away from the violence that was to come.
Ok.
Emperor Montezuma insists that you make war on the Tlaxcala.
Montezuma oversteps his authority, but we will comply.
Montezuma of the Aztecs demands that as a member of the Triple Alliance, you attack the wicked Tlaxcala.
Montezuma asks us to do much for the Aztecs, but we shall do his bidding for now.
Now we can attack the Tlaxcalans. Villagers are being sent by transport from Tenochtitlan to establish our forward base. We have found a hidden temple to Tlaloc, the rain god. The magicians say that if we bring 10 jaguar warriors to this location, we will be rewarded.
These warriors shall receive the blessing of the rain god and will fight with the skill of 10 normal men.
We have destroyed one town center. 3 remain. We have now leveled 2 of Tlaxcala's town centers. 2 remain. Tlaxcala has 1 town center remaining. Where can it be? We have destroyed all of Tlaxcala's town centers. Now, they will surely surrender.
Now that we are rid of the Tlaxcala, let us rid ourselves of these Aztec taskmasters as well.
Agreed.
None shall challenge the will of Montezuma and the Aztec Empire. Wait, what is this that approaches?
I claim these lands, and all the gold it bears in the name of Ferdinand of Spain. Until all of the gold is brought to me, I shall not return. And to prove it, I am sinking my ship.
Who is this man who has arrived? Could it be that the god Quetzalcoatl has returned?
The first messengers to arrive in Tenochtitlan told of mountains or towers that floated on the sea. Each story told to Montezuma was more fantastic than the last. They could fire stone balls, shooting sparks, and raining fire that could crack open weapons. Huge deer with no antlers carried these gods on their backs. Their swords were iron, their bows were iron, their shields were iron, their clothes were iron. Surely, this was the return of Quetzalcoatl. Montezuma heard these reports with growing alarm as he shifted nervously on the Iquipali, his legless throne. He ordered expensive gifts to be sent to the new arrivals in the hopes that Quetzalcoatl would spare Montezuma when the feathered serpent came to Tenochtitlan. He has come back, Montezuma whispered to me. He seeks his place on the throne, for that is what he promised when he departed. I held my weapons tightly but said nothing. How could I challenge the word of our emperor? So says Cuauhtémoc, Jaguar warrior of Tenochtitlan. Passed down to you by Cuauhtémoc, Jaguar warrior of Tenochtitlan. Another omen. The lake around the great city of Tenochtitlan rose and boiled. It foamed until it washed against the houses of the city, sweeping many of them into the lake. I accompanied our dignitaries to meet with the new arrivals. We journeyed towards the coast, through the lands of our enemies, the Tlaxcala. When we emerged from the forest, the strangers welcomed us, although they kept their weapons nearby. I told them that we were Aztecs, representatives of the great Montezuma. Their leader said that his people were Spanish, and he named himself Cortés, although he seemed pleased when we referred to him as Quetzalcoatl. Although their armor and animals seemed otherworldly, they did not seem like gods to me. We presented Cortés gifts of finest cotton and plumes of bird feathers, but he seemed more interested in the gold ornaments. He asked again and again if there was more gold to be found in Tenochtitlan. By now, Cortés had advanced all the way to the lands of the Tlaxcala. There was initial warfare made between Tlaxcala and the Spanish. However, when Cortés heard stories about the size of Tenochtitlan and the numbers of our brave Aztec warriors, he suggested that the Spanish and Tlaxcala join forces and attack the Aztecs.
We do not know the intentions of these Spanish arrivals. For now, our enemies are the Tlaxcala. The Spanish are attacking our allies in Tabasco. We must come to their aid. It is to no avail. The Spanish beasts and weapons are more powerful than our warriors. Tabasco is lost. The Spanish armies are dangerous because of the beasts they ride into battle. If we could capture these animals, then the Spanish would be much less of a This is the pen where we will corral the captured Spanish horses. Our runners have confirmed that the Spanish and Tlaxcalans have formed an alliance against us. Now, we must do battle with them both. We have captured 10 Spanish horses. We are halfway to our goal. It is here that the Spanish sank their own transports to prove their determination to conquer our lands. Cortés must be nearby. Now that we have all of the Spanish horses, they will be unable to...
Although the Aztec warriors fought well that day, my men were frightened by the beasts that the Spanish rode into combat, and by the noise of their exploding weapons. Although we had survived the attack, I thought it best to withdraw towards Tenochtitlan and share with Emperor Montezuma all that we had learned. I do not know if my uncle, Montezuma, was being cowardly or merely trying to preserve us from the wrath of the gods, but he sent more gifts to Cortés, along with an invitation to visit our great city as his personal guest. I was there when Montezuma met Cortés on one of the causeways leading into our great city. The Spanish had evidently never seen anything like Tenochtitlan, and they stared in wonder at the brightly colored markets and pyramids rising out of a man-made island in the middle of gigantic Lake Texcoco. Some of the Spanish soldiers asked whether it was all a dream, the first glimpse of things never heard, seen, or dreamed before. Montezuma led Cortés at the top of the Great Pyramid, where he pointed out the various canals and neighborhoods of the city. But Cortés was mostly interested in gold ornaments and helped himself to any which he encountered. I was no longer convinced that this man was Quetzalcoatl. So says Cuauhtémoc, Jaguar warrior of Tenochtitlan. Passed down to you by Cuauhtémoc, prisoner of Tenochtitlan. The next omen we did not see, but heard the voice of a weeping woman who cried in the night that she could not hide her children. Indecision plagued Emperor Montezuma. Was this man Quetzalcoatl, or was he just a man? As the emperor brooded, the citizens grew restless. Cortés kept a close watch on the emperor, and soon Montezuma became a prisoner in his own palace. Thus did the Spanish take Tenochtitlan without a siege. The Spanish collected all of the gold they could find. They were not interested in our art or ornaments, but merely melted down the gold for return to Spain. They also outlawed any further sacrifice to the gods, and when the priests protested, they were killed. The citizens and warriors of Tenochtitlan were enraged. We knew, even if our emperor did not, that these men were not gods. Riots broke out in the marketplaces and at the palace. And when Montezuma himself appeared on the walls, urging the Aztecs to be at peace, the people threw stones at him. It was time to remove these so-called gods from Tenochtitlan. I must make my way back to Tenochtitlan and end the Spanish influence there. But how?
If you truly mean to free Tenochtitlan, then we will fight alongside you. Many Aztecs are held prisoner to the north. They would join us as well.
Out of my way, pig!
Cool.
There are transports on the beach ahead, but they are guarded. We will need several Aztec warriors to defeat them.
What are you doing so close to the city? Stirring up trouble, no doubt.
A Tlaxcalan priest. We must be cautious. I wonder what would happen if we opened that jaguar pen. Montezuma was tricked by the Spanish. Vengeance shall be ours. We have reached the Tlaxcala outpost. We do not have time to destroy every building. Let us free the prisoners and escape. Vengeance shall be ours. We can gather our strength across the lake, but to get there, we must steal a transport from Tenochtitlan.
Okay.
We can train priests at this monastery and use them to capture villagers from Tenochtitlan. I have heard tales of an island in Lake Texcoco that is covered with gold, but is sacred to Tezcatlipoca, the jaguar god. The Spanish thought that Tenochtitlan was theirs, but they did not count on the strength and courage of Aztec warriors.
The Spanish called it La Noche Triste, which meant the night of sorrows in their language. At first, the Spanish barricaded themselves in our homes and palaces, but we continuously attacked their quarters. With stones, slings, and arrows, we drove the Spanish and Tlaxcalans through the streets of Tenochtitlan and across the 3 bridges, or over the walls into Lake Texcoco. Thousands died. Those Spanish that were not killed by macanas or javelins were drowned by the weight of the treasure they refused to leave behind. Tenochtitlan lay in ruin, but the city was ours again. Many brave Aztec warriors died that night as well, including noble Montezuma. The Spanish claimed that our own people had killed him with thrown stones. Thus, it was a night of sorrows for us as well. So says Cuauhtémoc, defender of Tenochtitlan. Passed down to you by Cuauhtémoc, Emperor of Tenochtitlan. The death of Montezuma only served to further inflame the fury of my people. I planned to lead the attack personally against the Spanish.
That is as it should be, Cuauhtémoc,
the priests told me.
For you are now our emperor.
I took my place on the Ikipali throne, and the headdress of the emperor was placed upon my head. A crown is never a comfortable thing to wear. Cortés had still not made it far from Tenochtitlan, for the Spanish were weighted down with our stolen gold. As they fled around the shores of the lake, my warriors pursued them from canoes. I sent additional warriors by land, for it was obvious now that Cortés was attempting to flee back to the safety of his allies in Tlaxcala. We caught up with the Spanish on the north side of Lake Texcoco.
The Spanish shall never again set foot in Tenochtitlan. Let none escape our blades.
My Emperor, we have been studying Spanish horses and cannon, and have found that there is no reason Aztecs could not use these weapons, provided we had the proper materials. If we capture Spanish horses, it is possible that we can train cavalry of our own. If we capture their stores of gunpowder, we could even create some cannons to use against the Spanish. In their haste to flee, the Spanish abandoned these carts filled with gunpowder. We have created a bombard cannon. We have captured a Spanish horse. If we return it to our citadel, perhaps we can learn to ride it into battle. We have trained a horse rider. It is an old Spanish ammunition depot. These wagon loads of gunpowder might be useful.
I hope that the surviving Spanish on the edge of the lake could see as their captured comrades were dragged up the steps of the Great Pyramid. Perhaps they would then understand why we feared the wrath of the feathered serpent Quetzalcoatl. Perhaps they would know fear as well. With the fighting subsided, there was much work to be done. Our city has suffered much from the Spanish occupation and the fighting in the streets. The priests set out repairing the temples, for the Spanish had cast down the idols that we had placed there. We began a celebration to give thanks to the gods when a great plague struck Tenochtitlan. Many of our people became helpless and could only lie on their beds. Many others died. We did not know if the gods were still unhappy with us, or if this was some weapon unleashed by the Spanish. Regardless, if Cortés returned, he would find a much weakened city. I could not let that happen. So says Cuauhtémoc, Emperor of Tenochtitlan. Passed down to you by Cuauhtémoc, Emperor of Tenochtitlan. The Spanish will return soon. I had hoped that Cortés would continue fleeing back from whence he came, but he stopped to regroup at Tlaxcala. I imagine that he could not stand the thought of returning to Spain while we still had treasuries of gold hidden from him. Still dreaming of gold and glory, the Spanish pledged themselves to another assault on Tenochtitlan. In Tlaxcala, Cortés constructed many war boats on dry land. Then he had the craft broken down and carried through the rainforest, only to be rebuilt on Lake Texcoco. He knows that my Aztec warriors can defend the bridges leading into Tenochtitlan, but we are vulnerable from the water. I called the warriors to one final battle. The priests attempted to encourage the troops by calling upon the Aztecs to defend their ancient gods and their glorious city. They sent up smoke signals to declare that the Aztecs were ready for war as I climbed the steps of the great temple and sounded the shell trumpet. Tenochtitlan would be under siege soon, and the brave Aztecs would die before we would see her captured.
The Great Pyramid has been destroyed. The gods will surely punish us for our insolence. We demolished the southern causeway to slow the Spanish advance.
We have returned for the rest of your gold. Surrender now or feel the wrath of our bombards. You are postponing the inevitable. The time of the Aztec Empire has passed. Look to us as your new rulers.
What are these strange weapons? A gift from the gods?
Ok, ok.
We have done it. Tenochtitlan still stands, and the armies of Cortez are defeated.
Ik ho.
The Aztec Empire has triumphed.
Bantelwo.
Comandante?
Not so long ago, some 500,000 people called Tenochtitlan home. It is difficult to recall that this smoking ruin was once an endless city. Yet, we will rebuild. We created this island upon which our city and temple stand, and we can do it once more. The Aztec Empire has endured its greatest challenge, yet more Spanish may come in the future. I am not certain there is a place for us in this new world. I could ask the gods for a hint of the future, but no doubt that would lead to more sacrifice. I think there has been enough death for now. My people composed a poem to commemorate this great war that we have survived, and yet perhaps still not won. Broken spears lie in the roads. We have torn our hair in our grief. The houses are roofless now, and their walls are red with blood. So says Cuauhtémoc, Emperor of Tenochtitlan.